Making the perfect wedding card just became a whole lot easier thanks to the new Mr. and Mrs. Diva mini stamp set by Debbie Corbari. This adorable little set is perfect for making wedding cards, engagement cards, and even thank you cards to give as a gift to the new bride and groom. Pair this set with any anniversary stamp, and you can create an adorable anniversary card. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you an elegant yet whimsical wedding card and an easy way to color and glitter the new husband and wife. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this card. First, you're going to need the new Mr. and Mrs. Diva mini stamp set. And the stamps I'm going to use from this set are the bride and the groom stamp and the congratulations to the new Mr. and Mrs. Then you're going to need some markers, and I have a few Copic markers here. The ones that I have are R17 Lipstick Orange, C2, which is Cool Gray number 2, E00, which is Skin White, and E33, which is Sand. Then I'm going to use a Sakura Clear Star Jelly Roll pen. You're going to need a couple of dies, and I am using the Spellbinders Classic Ovals dies and the Classic Scalloped Ovals dies. I'm also using a Cuttlebug Swiss Dot folder. I'm going to use some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. You can also use the Gina K Designs black ink if you want to heat set it or give it a little bit of time to dry. But since I'm going to be coloring immediately in the video, I'm going to use the Memento today. Then you're going to need some ribbon, and I'm going to use some of our black organdy ribbon. You're going to need some cardstock, and I have the white Gina K Designs heavy base weight cardstock for my card base. And then I have some of the layering weight for my focal image and for my panel, and some of the black onyx cardstock as well. So let's begin by stamping this focal image onto a piece of the white cardstock. And here I have the stamp. You can see it's a nice big chunky stamp. And it is very, very closely cut, as you can see, and it's mounted on cling cushion. So this is all ready to just pop out of the package and right onto your acrylic block. So we're going to start by inking up this stamp with some of that Memento ink. And then I'm going to stamp that. Get a different piece of cardstock here. There we go. Got something on that one too. Okay. And let's stamp that right here in the center of the piece of cardstock. There we go. So there is the Mr. and Mrs. Diva. And this particular panel is going to get mounted onto a piece of black onyx. So I'm going to put that aside for just a second. Then I'm going to take a little scrap piece of paper here, and I'm going to ink up my greeting using that same Memento ink. And of course you can use the Gina K Designs ink or any black ink that you like to use. And I'm going to stamp that with room for my die to get around there, so that looks pretty good. And I'll just put that aside. So now I'm going to begin to color Mr. and Mrs. Diva, and I'm going to start with the Skin White, which is the E00. And there are lots of different Copic marker colors that work for different skin tones. So just find the one that works the best for you. Try a bunch of different ones. This one seems like a good one for the purpose of this card. And you can see I'm just coloring in all the areas where skin would be showing. A little bit on her feet there. And also, she's got a strapless gown, so I need to color in her arms and her hands. There we go. Okay, so now I've given them a little bit of color there. My next color is going to be the E33, which is Sand, and I'm going to use this one for hair. And I decided to give them both the same color hair, and I'm not doing any fancy shine or shadow. I'm just coloring their hair this particular brownish color. But I thought I would give them this same color hair just because I really don't want there to be a lot of distraction in this card other than the fact that they're a bride and a groom. I want to keep the tones very muted and soft, so if I give them the same color hair, it doesn't draw attention to one or the other. It kind of keeps them both as a couple. But of course, if you're doing a card like this for a bride and a groom, and your bride actually has red hair, I would encourage you to make them look as much like the people who you're giving the card to. Okay, so now my next color is going to be the C2, and that's the cool gray number 2. And here I'm going to color his suit. Now, I don't want his suit to be gray. I want his suit to be white, but I also don't want to just leave it white. I want to give it a little bit of shading. So that's why I'm going with a really light gray, and I'm just going to outline the suit on the inside, just like this, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And I would assume that Mr. Diva would be wearing white shoes to go with his white tuxedo or his suit. So I'm just going to again go right around. You can see that's just adding some depth to the suit. I can color in his waistband there and a little bit down his collar. And you can color in some parts if you want, like I just colored in the tie. And that just gives it a little bit of neat contrast in there. There we go. Kind of darken that up a little bit. Probably be a few darker shadows underneath where he's carrying her. So there we go. Now I have a white suit that has a little bit of depth. Now I want to color her lips, and I'm going to use the R17, which is the lipstick orange. It's a nice, very vibrant red that has an orange undertone. So there, her lips are colored. And now I'm going to add a little bit of glitter. But before I do that, I'm going to adhere this panel onto the black panel. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of the mono adhesive. So we will attach these two together. This way, this just has to be applied to the card base, and I don't have to mess with it once I add the glitter. Now you can add glitter in lots of different ways. You can use loose glitter. You can use stickles, which is kind of a glitter that's in a glue. Or you can use what I'm using today, and this is the Clear Star Sakura Stardust pen, or the Jelly Roll pen. And what I like to do is I like to get it started a little bit on some rougher paper, so just on the surface here of my little piece of scrap paper under my card. I'm just going to get the pen started so I know the glitter's flowing. And then I'm going to color in this entire bridal dress and veil and her shoes in this sparkling clear glitter. So it's just going to let that pretty white of her dress show through, but then there's going to be lots of sparkle. And I will show you all of this beautiful sparkle in my finished card project. We'll change the lighting a bit so you can really see it. Right now, our lights are set up to kind of cut the glare a little bit so you don't get quite as much sparkle. But when we cut those lights out, you'll see all of that pretty sparkle. So, what's nice about this, and why I like the Stardust pen, it's so precise. You can get into the smallest areas. You can also color alongside of lines in the line art images without actually going over the lines. And you have so much control this way. The other thing I really like about these pens is they dry very quickly. So when you're making a card and you don't want it to be real gluey, or you don't want to have to use a separate glue with it, throw a Stardust pen in your bag and you can color and glitter on the go. It's very convenient. So there, now I have her dress all sparkly. And again, it's difficult to see that sparkle here, but I will show that to you in just a little bit. So the next step for the card is going to be to cut out this greeting. And I'm going to do that using the Cuttlebug. I'm going to start with an A and a B plate. There's my A plate and my B plate. And then I'm going to position this little oval right where I want it. Make sure it looks nice and straight. And then the C plate is going to go on top. And I'm going to cut that out. I'm also going to emboss it. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to flip it over and leave it on face down. Then I'm going to add the rubber mat on top, another B plate, and a piece of chipboard. And not every Cuttlebug needs the chipboard, so always try it first without. And then if it's still not getting a good impression, then maybe try a couple pieces of cardstock first, and then your last resort is chipboard. Chipboard is good if your Cuttlebug has been used for a long time. It kind of loosens up a little bit. So there, you can see that little embossed ridge around that oval. So there's my greeting. Now I'm also going to cut out a small piece of black cardstock with the scalloped edge. And because my card base is going to be white, you wouldn't be able to see the greeting as well if it didn't have that tiny little scalloped edge of black separating the greeting from the rest of the card. And you'll see what I mean. When you put these two together, you just get that real elegant little scalloped edge around the outside. And they can be put together quickly and easily with a little bit of mono adhesive. There we go. Okay, so there is my little greeting. So I'm going to put that aside too, because I have one more thing I want to do with the Cuttlebug. Here I have a piece of our white cardstock, and I'm going to use this Swiss Dot Cuttlebug folder to add a little bit of elegant texture to my card base without adding any color or any stamping or anything. This just gives that elegant touch to any wedding, birthday, anniversary card. And I have to make sure it's straight because I just like my dots to be straight. All right, so there's the Cuttlebug folder on the B plate, and I'm going to put the other B plate on top and run that through. And now I have that pretty Swiss dot pattern, which I think is just so pretty. So now I'm going to add that panel to this piece of black onyx cardstock. And I'll do that with a little bit of mono adhesive. And I really like to just have that really small 1/8 of an inch border around the outside. I think that's nice and elegant, just a nice touch. So my next step is to take a little bit of organdy ribbon and cut that. Now I'm going to wrap this around this card panel, but I want to do it up a little bit higher because I'm going to have my focal image, and then my greeting is going to be down near the bottom. So I want the ribbon to be more in the center of the focal image, not in the center of the card. So that looks like a good spot. So I'll flip it over and then add a little bit of tape and tighten it up there. And I can check it to make sure it's straight. What's nice about the Swiss dot, I'm going to move that just a hair. What's nice about the Swiss dot pattern is if you do your dots straight, then your ribbon can just follow right along that nice line and everything looks so nice and crisp and straight. Then I'm going to add that to this white card base that I made earlier. So So we'll get a little adhesive there, and I always like to put a little touch of adhesive onto the ribbon to really make sure it stays down under that panel and doesn't come apart. So there we have a nice card base. And then this is going to go on top, and you can either tape that right onto your card with some adhesive, or you can use some pop dots like I did with my finished card project, which looks exactly the same, but let me show you that one so you don't have to watch me tape. You all know how to tape. So there is my finished card project, my Mr. and Mrs. Diva. And we're going to turn down the lights now, and you can see all that shimmer and sparkle. Modify this card by glittering the bride's dress in silver for a 25th wedding anniversary card, or add a touch of gold glitter for a couple celebrating their 50th.